So man, it's Thursday.
Yes, sir.
If it was Thursday, a few weeks ago,
The Cowboys will be releasing their injury report.
and we'll be looking for Jeff.
Wow.
You wouldn't have to. I'll be there. I'll be there.
You'll be there.
Yeah.
You'll be there.
With
Season opener.
with my number 4, Dak Prescott on.
That's
There
you go.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Brand new one.
Hoping, and I know y'all gonna be hoping y'all hear
Is
the
it
camera.
his? Because I hear it's suspect whether or not he gonna be using it next year or not.
Oh no, they back the truck up. They gonna use it.
Oh, they gonna use it?
They
Okay.
gotta use it.
Okay.
they back the truck up.
All
They
right.
gotta use it.
We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
Check it.
We'll see.
Check. You know how that. You know how that blue and white is. We'll
You
have to
already
see.
know it.
We have to see.
You already know it. You know it. Yes, sir.
We're glad you're here, man. You're gonna stay, man. You're gonna stay with us.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. All right. So we won't run no cowboy highlights. We'll just keep it moving.
That's okay.
Hey, welcome everybody. We're here at the Blueprint Leadership Podcast. So glad to see you get this week. Well, you know, we come together and we just discuss how the simple truths of the Word of God just builds and grows your leadership and just betters your everyday walking around life. Always here with Pastor Brian Pope, Pastor Lamar Mills, and our special guest today, we have none other, Mr. Jeffrey B.
So,
Yeah, he left his jersey home today, but
Yes.
we'll get into that later. And Mrs. Jacqueline B. How you guys doing?
great.
Also,
Glad to be here.
Good, man. We're so glad you joined us. Now, we're in the middle of our roll call series.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you seem like you've just been having fun with this series.
Definitely have. Definitely been having fun. You know, it's kind of like rounding the circle. We kind of talked about our built to last year, and so one of the things we said is how can you be built to last if you don't know what you've been built to do.
Correct.
And so, you know, just taking this opportunity to help people in discovering who they are, responding to God calling them, and starting that journey to be built to last in what they do.
And that's when we went into this particular sermon series. I mean, I have to say, you guys popped in my head just immediately, because there's such a, I don't want to say misconception, but it's like when you say what you're built to do, you know, often we get caught up in just skill sets or just a vocation, like that's what we're built to do. And, you know, what you're exposing through us through this series is so much greater than that.
Yeah.
And we wind up actually missing things. And so, you know, we're talking to our leaders, we're talking to our business owners, and for you personally, as well as for all those people you lead, this message is so vital in making sure that you're not just getting locked in on one aspect of a person and not even recognizing what you bring to the table and what you're actually built to do. So I want you guys just to kind of talk about yourself for a minute. Jeff, tell us what your vocation is. What is it that you do for a living?
in a nutshell, I'm a software developer.
Software developer.
Yes, for a finance company. Yep.
That's all brains.
And coach, basketball coach. And that's it.
Okay.
Vocationally.
Okay. And then most people are very familiar with you based on what you do here at the ministry. What do you do here at the ministry?
Well, I'm the first line of defense, first person that you probably see coming through on campus, parking ministry.
The parking ministry.
Pastor Brian didn't get here before I do so. But yeah,
You are director over the parking ministry.
Yes.
I've
So-
been known to roam the parking lots a little bit in the morning.
Yeah, early in the morning.
Yeah, you're
right. Director over the parking ministry. Now, we'll go deeper into that as we move along, but there's no software being developed in the parking lot, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, gotcha.
Not at all.
Okay. And Mrs. Jack,
Yes.
it wouldn't even be a fair question to say, what do you do? So I'm going to go and say, most of us are probably familiar with the fact that you are a nurse.
Yes, I am a nurse.
Now, you know what kind of nurse?
I do remember the title was big, but I remember when she came to the staff and she was giving us the full rundown of how she does what she does.
Right.
But the title itself, I remember hearing it and was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a pause, you know. I learned a lot of words.
All I remember was the big gasp from the set when she gave us the title. So give us the title of that specialty.
So my specialty is brain and spinal cord, but I actually kind of took the administrative route after some time, and I was a director of virtual care. So we made sure that, myself and my team made sure that the doctors were able to communicate with the patients using technology. So telehealth, telemedicine.
Wow. Brain and spinal cord. That's some serious stuff.
Should have broke that down. Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. 'Cause we could have said that on the title anyway. And just tell me, guys, as far as, we know just you guys are some of the most skilled people we have in this ministry. And then we see how you serve and the different places that you serve. So when you're listening to this sermon series, what kind of things are connecting with you based on what you're hearing from this roll call series?
So I gotta say that this series couldn't have come at a better better time.
Okay.
It was a time when it's a time during, like, we're really being, I don't even want to say challenged, but we're being promoted, I guess you could say, because I've learned that challenges are actually promotions when it comes to what we've been experiencing in our businesses as entrepreneurs. So just hearing the word and just that reassurance that we're in our purpose, we're doing what we were called to do, and I just thank God that we answered the call. It wasn't, a quick answer though. We kind of ducked our heads and covered, put our coats over our heads, when He was calling.
Okay.
But definitely, it has definitely been a blessing to know that, and to hear the messages going across, the teachings, because they've actually been very beneficial, as always.
All right, so you set up a transition there, because we talked about what your initial vocation, what you were doing, and then you mentioned answering the call, and you said businesses.
And it wasn't supposed to be that way.
So we got to go back to the brain and spinal cord, and then something happened there. That's no longer what you're doing.
No.
So. We're talking about answering the call and really understanding what that means. So what happened that moved you from that particular industry?
So about back in 2003, 2004, Jeffrey and I were staying in a very impoverished area. And everyone would come to our house, all the kids, play with our kids. And
You wouldn't have known.
yeah.
Really?
Right. And so I was standing out one day looking out the door, and as Jeffrey was walking behind me, the Holy Spirit just spoke to me and said that you're to have a home for children that can't stay home with their families. And I immediately turned around and told Jeffrey that, and he's like, oh, that's good. And then we immediately start, trying, okay, what is that going to look like? Do we have to stay with them? Do they come stay with us? Like, we just kind of took it and ran, but God, put the brakes on us. Like, nope, not yet, not yet. And so He gave us the name, shortly after. And then 10 years passed before He said, now it's time. Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, no, this is not from God, because I just went, I went through nursing school. I just finished the master's program at that time. And I'm thinking, this cannot be God, because I've done all these different things, and now you're telling me to leave. No, certainly not God.
And we were very comfortable in our life.
Right.
Yes. Very comfortable.
Things were good.
It finally got to
I know that spot. I know that spot. It's nice there.
Kids graduated.
And I'm glad you brought that up, though, because people are constantly, whenever somebody mentions transitioning or answering the call of God, people are constantly still asking, oh, what happened? Did you get fired? Did you get laid off? Or, things were struggling.
No, it was not like that at all.
It was not like that. Everything was good.
It was like, I don't know. That's
right.
That's a lot. You know what I'm saying? You about to walk away from a lot.
Yeah.
It was, insurance benefits, retirement benefits,
Exactly.
because I was working for the federal government. And so I can remember telling Jeff, I can remember exactly where I was. I was on 275 approaching Bush Avenue. And I told Jeff, hey, it's time, I got to go. I said, this is how I'm going to set it up. I've already been in contact with some people and we're going to do this X, Y, and Z. And he's like, absolutely not. That is not what we're going to do. I'm not doing it. Not going to do it. We've just got our kids out and we're settled and, we're able to live now. And you want to do what? No, not going to do it.
Yeah.
And I can remember having to pull over because I told myself, I just built up the courage to follow you, God. I just, built up that nerve to where I'm going to do it.
Right.
And then he just snatched it away.
He's
So
like,
I
nope.
felt like something just yanked out of my stomach. Like I had to pull the car off. I was crying. And I think it was like a week and a half because that was kind of bad. A week and a half passed. I didn't even say nothing to Jeffrey. I'm like, I'm trying to follow God and you won't allow me to do it, And at that point, I just kind of, okay, God, we'll do it in your time. And this can't be your timing because he's not on board with it. And then 3 years passed. And I think I was like, I'd had enough, like God had just filled me with so much. And I was leaving home and I looked back at Jeffrey. Mind you, I used to be jealous when I would leave home and he's in the bed. I would be so jealous. I'm going to work and you're in the bed talking about it's going to be a long day.
Yeah.
How?
He said life was good. That's
Right. Right. And
Yeah,
so
that's
I
funny.
looked at him and I just started yelling, like, you don't support me. This is what God has called me to do. And you're not even supporting me. And he's like, what is wrong with you? So he goes, you're talking about this business, but you don't have anything in place, no business plan, no nothing. Jeffrey is very analytical, very methodical. And I'm spur of the moment, let's do it, And so I looked at him and I was like, I do. And the name of it is Grace for Hope. I started spitting out the name and he's looking like, oh, wait a minute. And so when I got home that evening, I brought all the documents home with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, here, I have something for you. He's looking at it like, oh my God, this girl has a company. It's like, you have a company. It's like, yeah, it's time to go. I have to do it. And from that point on, I think Jeffrey realized how serious I was and like, she's truly going to do this thing, And I started, like, I would wake up in the mornings and I'd share dreams with him, things God would share with me in my dreams. And he's like, oh, okay, like, this is real.
Yeah.
I can tell there was still some reluctance, though, because, it was like, I was getting the downloads and he wasn't. So why isn't God talking to me?
Yeah.
And I told him one time, because you're not listening. He's talking, you're just not listening. But that wasn't the case. I think.
Yeah.
And
And I
so-
know that you've talked about that as it relates to this series and kind of what we're listening for.
Yeah.
I think you started this out like, you listen for your name to be called, but God's
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yeah, and which was something that's so cool about what you guys just shared. And it's like, man, you're asking God for purpose. God, and we were talking about this before, right? God is very clear about who he is, right? And he's very clear about the nature of how he does things and how he operates.
Yeah.
And I would say, man, and sometimes you just got to understand who asked you, right? And who you're talking to.
Right.
Absolutely, right? God is one who doesn't like people who don't depend on him.
Right.
So if you're asking God, what's my purpose? His answer is going to mean that you're going to leave whatever self-dependency you had has to be crucified in exchange for complete dependency on him, right? When God calls you, the nature of what he's calling you to means that you're going to have to step away from your security and into his, right? Like you that is the nature of his call. His call calls for a transition of in what you trust and how you trust in it. And God doesn't like anybody that doesn't trust completely in him. And so I find it funny, right? That some people are like, I don't know if it was God. I'm like, oh, let's go down the characteristics of things that describe what God would do. Do you feel like you're leaving all security? Do you feel like you're leaving everything that sounds stable to you and you're feeling like you're having to put all that in him? They're like, yes. I'm like, check mark. That's we'll start there. That could have been God, right?
It sounds like that's right where y'all were.
Right. And on the opposite side of, oh man, you feel like God is calling you to do X, Y, and Z. Like, yes. I mean, do you feel comfortable about it? Yeah, man, I just feel I have a great game plan together. Oh, do you have all the finances to make it happen? Yes, I have it there. That might not be God.
Right.
You sound way too comfortable
Right. You got it all
for
together.
The
By
nature
yourself.
of the caller is to bring you into dependency.
Right.
Every
good.
time you
That's
were
good.
asking God, what do you want for me to do? God, what's the purpose for me? First of all, God's very self-interested.
Right.
You know, I would use the word even stronger, right? God is selfish, self-centered,
Yes.
right?
Oh.
God is going to call by God for God, right? If God is calling you, it's not for you, it's for him. Like God cares about him and his goals.
Yeah.
But there's a nature to it, right? And that's what I'm like listening to, like, man, that sounds just like God.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The question is like, are you ready though? And you know, and I heard what you said, like you spent
Yeah.
some years growing in confidence with God.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the picture because God understands where we are. And God understands what we need for this thing to move forward in a way that it won't, like I say, be built to last. It won't fall apart.
Exactly.
So so with that being said, during the time that lapsed, the time that passed, did you feel that did it matter? Was it a disadvantage that 3 years, more than 3
looking
years
back
had
on it?
passed? Right. Since you
back
heard
on
what you got the idea, you're standing at your door, you're looking at these kids. This is what God wants us to do. Then at least 3 years passed, right, before you actually got to doing it. But how'd you feel about? Did you feel like you missed something because of the amount of time that passed?
I feel every moment, every minute, every hour, every day, every year, every month was worth it. And all of that time we were being built.
Right.
Whether it was us rearing our own children and facing the same challenges with them that we're facing with, the other the children we're working with now. Me getting my degree in nursing, the master's degree in nursing. It's so weird, but so crazy to me. But it's required to do what I'm doing. So everything we did, everything we endured then during that period, it was in training for the call. If you will. We were training. It was like over at the training camp, right?
And that's really good because you talk about that waiting period.
Right.
When you said everything that took place during that period was required for what you were being called to do.
Yes.
So absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah. And
How we wait.
right, I feel I'm gonna do a little series leak, right? Because what you're speaking of in that waiting period, oh man, our actual final series of the year is gonna be based around how do we handle the dream. You receive this dream from God. How do you handle it? And the picture we're gonna look at, which I believe is just incredible when you really think about it, is Jesus coming, right? God in flesh came, and he knew exactly what he came to do. But you look at the time it took for him to get to it. Right? You look at the time he took. There was even moments where he says, now is not the time. Don't tell anybody, right? He didn't just because he knew what he was called to do, didn't mean he became immature in how he handled his day-to-day actions. He saw everything that, and that's what I'm learning what you guys said. He saw everything that he was doing a part of what he had to do before he did what he came to do.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes that's exactly where we are as believers. God will give us this incredible vision, this incredible dream, and we just have to learn how to handle it the way Jesus handled his mission.
Right.
And to your point, last night during Wednesday night service, the people around him, the conditions around him had to be right.
It wasn't just about him dying. It was about him living the model of perfection. Right? It was about him training people. It was about every miracle mattered. So it's like, no, although there was moments where he was looking up at Jerusalem, he was like, now is not the time. And he kept walking. But I see many believers looking up at their Jerusalem like, let me go get it. And it's like, wait a minute. Even Jesus knew that there was things that were needed before he went. Right?
Yeah. And 10 plus years. I mean, that's.
Yeah. I look back, and even once I made the decision, once we made the decision that I was gonna leave, that was in 2018. Just this year, 2021, we got the license that I was seeking to achieve. So again, that's 3 more years. But again, me waiting from November 2018 to this year, April 1st, I made a joke. I said, you gave it to me on April Fool's Day. I was a fool for waiting, right? So from November 2018 to April 1st, everything that I endured, everything we went through during that period was necessary. It kind of built us up for, what we're doing now. And we were in training. Again, we were in training. I think we have almost hit just about every facet, every challenge, everything that could have come at us. We had the media after us. We didn't even have a license.
Wow.
We're not even licensed. Like, why are you bothering us?
Right.
We're just trying to do the right thing. We were being persecuted. Oh, they're trafficking children.
We did
Wow.
all of
But here we are trying to prevent it. So we've, in that waiting period, it's still, and Jeffrey said, Jackie, you're so strong. You never take anything from people. Why are you taking this from them?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Why aren't you moving? You should be. And I said, it's not the time.
Yeah.
You remember?
Yeah.
I said, it's not the time, Jeffrey. It's okay.
Understand.
I'm going to be okay. I said, I'm moving in God's time, and it's not the time.
Understanding
which
God's
is
way.
which is kind of like you see the difference, and she was the go, and I was always the analytical. Now we got to a point where it's like, why are we doing this? You push to go this far.
Let's keep pushing.
Yeah.
Let's keep now. Why? Let's change the route. You know what I'm saying? But she always like, hold up.
Yeah.
So she was being led. And like sometimes when you're too analytical, you start to lean on your own knowledge and not hear from God.
Yeah,
Or listen to God. Not
I know
hear,
we
not
talk about
listen.
built to last too, so that's important. But I want to solidify a little bit more before we go deeper. Okay. In that, because you said businesses.
Oh.
So this is not the first time. This is not the only time that God has spoken.
Yeah.
So God spoke to you recently.
Yeah. So
Talk
during
to us
the
about
process,
that transition of hearing from God.
when we were waiting to be licensed, getting things in order and asking for a license, God spoke to me, because I would always tell people, I just want to be known for helping people. I just want to help.
Yeah.
And Jeff was like, you can't save everybody. You can't help everybody.
That's me.
And so leave them alone. And so I was talking to my daughter is dating a guy, and I was talking to him. He's a truck driver. And I was asking him about trucking, and I said, how does that work? And, he was explaining it to me. I said, so if I get a truck, you can come drive for me. He said, yeah. I said, Jeffrey, I think we should do that. If we get a truck, we can hire other people. Because back in the old days, I just saw a truck driver as somebody that, it just wasn't a really good image. Society just didn't really, kind of paint a good image of them, And so I just felt like I could help them.
A truck.
A truck.
A truck.
With a driver,
Out of like thousands of entrepreneurial opportunities. A truck.
Yeah. And so I told Jeffrey, he's like, no, you're going to stick to what you were called to do. That is not your calling. That has nothing to do with you.
Mr.
So you just
Analytical.
opened the door. I got it. I got to make this point.
Go ahead.
I think often when we talk about callings and assignment, people have these themes, these titles, business owner, those type of things. But there seems to be a silver thread throughout the things that you all are doing.
Absolutely.
You talk about, I just want to be known as somebody who helped other people.
Help people.
And so I think that gives us a good image of what really is the call.
Absolutely.
It may manifest in many ways.
Right.
But really the calling is very general to all of us.
Correct. And you hit it on the head. Because I wanted her to explain why she saw trucking as an option. What did you see in trucking, and why you thought that was a business option for you?
So on top of, trucking, keeps America going, I just saw that a lot of people were, some felons and, just had a hard life, and people just didn't want to hire them, just didn't want to be around them, and things of that nature. So I just saw myself as being, I can help them. I can give them a job. We can get them moving. We can get them going. If only we did this, because a lot of companies don't hire felons. And I just saw that as a way of reaching out and helping them to get themselves back on track or get on track. And so I was like, I can do this. And then once I decided I was going to do it, Jeff was like, no. And so
Mr. Analytical.
Yes, Mr. Analytical, because he needed to know every facet of trucking before we made that leap. And so one day I got up, and I'd been speaking to one of my friends about it. And I called her, I said, hey, are you serious about doing this trucking thing if I do it? And she said, yeah. So I said, I'll be at your house in like 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes. And so I went there and we sat down and kind of went over everything. And by the time I left there, half the day was gone. I came back with a trucking company. So I came home and I presented the trucking company.
You didn't come back with an idea.
No, I came back with the whole company. I came back with the whole company. And then I invited Jeffrey to join us to be our partner.
Which I would say would be progress, right? Because the first time you just gave a name and it was like, well, where's the stuff? So it was like, I got you. Next time around, I'm gonna have it laid out. You know, progress.
Right. And so, it was so like me is what I do, and so I kind of explained things to him, and then kind of fast forward. One day we were talking, and Jeffrey said, "I am your partner. We're gonna do this."
Okay.
And so he just kind of, and it was just such it was so refreshing for me because it was no longer Jackie and Tony. It was Jeffrey, Jackie, Tony. And then that made me, I told him, I said, oh my God, a 3-string chord, you know? So it just kind of all worked together. And then Jeffrey's so, he's about making things work behind the scenes.
And see, that's a very key point, though. Again, we're talking about built to last. That was a transition for you.
Yeah.
Right? And then how did that come about to where, I mean, obviously you're Mr. Analytical. It's what you do. But so what happened for you to be able to see that, no, this is us?
It wasn't this particular case, I mean, in this particular business, it was never about me. I think the biggest challenge was another case. We're working on one project. We got a project, and I'm let's fix it. Let's get this where it's solid. And we were in the middle of trying to get licensed. I mean, we're in the middle of it. It's and heat it up. Now, hold up, we got a business. But 17 years, you know, at some point you say, you know what? Let's just do it. Yeah. I mean, and the biggest challenge was to me in this particular thing was it was like you did it without me. You made that move without me, but that was an easy fix. So it wasn't like, you know, like I said, 17 years. It ain't the first one you've made without me. I just got to catch up.
Right.
I just got to catch up. And with trucking, I mean, I know so many people in it, so it's like, okay.
And I want to say this too, right? Because we were talking about this a little bit before. Because so we're talking as believers,
right?
But the incredible thing is we're talking about a husband and wife, team as business partners, at this moment as well. And I always, you know, you guys know, I love to challenge things that people say that could be so negative if you live, if you allow it to be. Right. And you said something there. You was like, okay, this fix was easy. Yeah. I don't think at any point either one of you guys did anything that you didn't know the other one would do. And the fact of the matter is, some people are like, you did what you always do. I said, so wait, they're consistent.
Right.
What is hard is someone who's random.
Right. Exactly.
Like like you don't want random.
Right.
But many people will be like, my husband always does the same thing. My wife always does the same thing. Wait a minute, you mean they're consistent? That means you know exactly where you can play if you can just get over yourself.
Exactly.
If you can get over yourself, you can be the aid that you've been called to be, and y'all can be the aid to each other. Yeah. Right? What you said isn't a negative. Right. The fact that and I said every marriage, right? There's always a cool chemistry, and it's like, man, why are you letting your proximity work against you? Right? It should be working in your favor.
Right. And I love that the chemistry part, because it wasn't your transition, you're getting on board, right? It wasn't, okay, my wife did this and I have to go along. No, you got to see your part in this purpose. Yeah. You know, it wasn't her thing. Right. I mean, and talk about that a little bit. I mean, just your part. What does that partnership look like? Because I know you guys, it fits. It fits beautifully.
First, go ahead. How long have you all been together?
Oh.
Just celebrated 18 years on Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Oh, happy anniversary. Awesome.
Yeah.
But we have been
we've been knowing each other all
All
our
our
lives.
lives. We grew up together.
Yeah.
Jeffrey came back, you know.
Double back.
I know that.
He came back.
That's a long story.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we started dating in '92, and then I went into the military, and we kind of saw each other when we saw each other. Never really call it quits, but and then when Jeffrey was ready, he decided that I was ready, but I was like, nah, because he ain't ready. But we just kind of linked back together. Jeffrey was like, I'm ready, let's do this, you know. And I had always said, he told me from the very beginning that I was going to be his wife. That was like 2 weeks after dating. Now he's like, girl, I was on something then. And so we kind of, fate just brought us back together. And it was funny, but when we first got back together, his sister and his aunt challenged it, but his mom was like, no, that girl has been all around the world. And he's still here, and they're together. They're meant to be. You know?
That's awesome.
So yeah.
The reason I wanted you to just share that, because to get to Deacon Will's point of what he wants to bring out, I imagine that many husbands, I mean, we're talking about answering the call, we're talking about following your gifts. There are many husbands that are like terrified. Like, what is my wife about to do? You know, we get this idea that we're having to manage these things and control a lot that's happening. And we have, there's this other person who has ideas and dreams and things that they want to do. So I just want to hear you talk about how did you navigate this, but knowing that y'all been together for 20 years, that adds to it. But
we've gone through. I mean, pretty much any scenario you can go through. As a couple. As a couple, just say as a couple.
As a couple.
I mean, anything. So this, when you look at it, like, especially with this incident, the trucking, it was nothing detrimental to our family, this was only to make worst case scenario, it doesn't work. Best case scenario, we help thousands of people.
Right.
I mean, it just, we leave a legacy for our grandkids, and God gets all the glory.
Yeah. What I definitely wanted to point out from your standpoint though was when you crossed over and became a part of the business, it was not like anything that you were was not necessary. Right? When we talk about that threefold cord, when you talk about partnership, everything that you are, everything you've always been was a necessary part to make this work, just like everything else about how you guys make work. And that's what I mean. So when you see now how, your role along with the business, I know you guys take specific roles, but it's about your gifts and how those things fit together. Talk about that a little bit, just your role for with the business.
As far as the business side. I mean, I now I can use my vocational skills and my analytical skills, because like she's vision. She's vision, and she can make it. She make it work.
Yeah.
Like this is our biggest challenge. She want to put it on paper. I'm like, why do we have to put it on paper? What if I need it and you're in Brandon? Or what if someone needs it? So and it's kind of, so I take that and says, okay, send me that document. Take a screenshot and send it to me so I can put it on. So I can put it in a spreadsheet. So I can have it somewhere so anybody can get it.
Exactly.
And when we need it, those are the things. I mean, we just like balance each other out.
Exactly.
That's
it.
When she take off, and I say, "Oh, hold up now," and now I can kind of.
He literally says it. Whoa, hold up now.
And I kind of wanted. So, do you guys come from a family of business owners and people who start businesses, and the reason why I say that is I think a lot of us look over where we are, and that's first. And when you're first, there's things that you're supposed to do that once this thing is solidified, they won't have to do.
Right.
And a part of being first is that exploration.
Correct.
Right? A part of being first is what some people would call random. I use that word intentionally, right? That some people call random. No, it's not that I'm random. I'm first.
Yes.
You know, I'm establishing something that, man, will last prayerfully generation after generation. But if this thing isn't vetted first, then it won't have won't be as solid as it needs to be generationally.
Correct.
And so I was like, no, you got to understand, you're first, right? You're first. And as the first, man, you really have the advantage of not feeling like you're damaging something that's been built up.
Right.
But you have the privilege of being able to try out a bunch of stuff. Right. You get the chance to move this thing, see this thing. And what's amazing to me, and we talked about this, right? And I definitely want to bring this up, right? Is when we are talking about asking God and we get God involved, say, God, what do you want me to do? And the distinction in between when you ask God versus when you are just pursuing things based in your interests. And some people might be saying, well, man, you know, I see you guys doing this, hear you guys doing that. Pastor Lamar already brought up the silver thread, that it was people all the while. And that's because you guys are always involving God in the process. And God's goal is simple. It is going to be people driven. But at the same time, that also adds to a lot of the fluidity that we experience because God does want these people. And I found sometimes it's, you know, in that waiting period of, man, this license isn't coming through. Well, God, it's not that God's like, move on. God's like, I'm still trying to get the people. There's an adversary who's created a block in this area, but I still need y'all to get to people in this area. I'm not telling you to, and people get so caught up in the vehicle. They're like, God, are you? Oh, are you? No, God's not doing, God has the same, I'm trying to get the people. We were going this way, then the enemy snuck in, seeing we was coming this way, and so no, don't stop that. But we gonna have to pivot because there's still people. We're trying to get the people. So God's like, man, we gonna do.
Can you talk about another indicator that you use in when you say that if I'm measuring my progress and it's 1-for-1, then I know that it's more me than God.
I tell people all the time, man, I am a firm believer of implanting points of review when things are good. Because it's so hard to sit down and have a moment of review after something tragic has happened. It immediately casts a filter of wrong over it. So now you're having to work through your filter of disappointment. You're having to work through your filter of being let down to try to move forward. So I tell people, to avoid all that, when things are going good, stop. It's going good, stop, right? And one of those filters that I say is, even when something is working, as a believer, it never should be 1-for-1. So sometimes I stop when something is working, because if this thing is only producing what I can make it do, like without God, right? It's like, if this is just effort moving this, my effort moving this, then I have to pause, right? Even when it's working and say, God, do you want me doing this? Because 1 + 1 is supposed to equal 3 with God, not 2. And so sometimes you have to stop there and say, man, this thing I'm doing because God wants the people, right? Like God wants the people. And when we ask God for purpose, you got to understand, God will switch in a moment. He'll be like, okay, I need you to play basketball. The next moment, he'll be like, I want you to play football. The next moment, I want you to play soccer, right? And you'll be like, am I a soccer player, a football player, a baseball? God's like, you're none of these. You're my child.
None of that.
You're my child. You're talking to me. Now, if you're talking about what are you interested in, you may have liked soccer way more than you like basketball, and that's cool. Watch it at night. But during the day, go serve these kids, right? It's not about you, right? And so I just want people to kind of even hear that you guys are displaying everything individuals and a couple display when they're saying, God, we want to serve you.
Exactly.
We're trying to serve you. We want to serve your purpose. We know there's people attached to everything we do.
Yeah.
Man, if there's a pause with this license, that doesn't mean I can sit down and be stagnant.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I lost my mind because I want to go trucking now. It just means that I'm going to go after people at all costs, right?
At all costs.
That's good.
That is golden. And you actually, just hearing this story, you said something, we may be leaking again, but I think it's still coming. Yeah. But you were talking about Daniel. And you said, we're called to serve our generation according to God's will.
Yeah.
Everything that you guys have shared, and you said, I just want to help people. We talking about the kids in the neighborhood, talking about your own kids that you had to raise, talking about all these people that you've been able to touch from nursing. I mean, people look at software development and be like, what has that got to do with trucking industry? You said it earlier, the silver lining. Because God is single-minded. God is selfish, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be about his people.
And the funny you say that, Jeffrey, in his everyday working with different people, what have you, he has introduced me to, he'll call me, hey, babe, I got somebody you need to talk to. I know somebody you need to pray with her. I need you to help talk to her about doing this, or she wants to do what you're doing. He's always, I always say Jeffrey's my recruiter. Like, he recruits people to keep me focused, to keep me, okay, this is why you're doing what you're doing. It's almost like he'll just go and find somebody. Okay, you need to talk to her. Go talk to my wife. He one time he was in Walmart, and the neighbor, I just seen him toss my hand in the air. He calls me, hey, Jackie, I have Valerie here to talk to. Well, I shouldn't have called her. I have her here to talk to you, and I'm thinking, what are we going to talk about? She's right across the street from me. I don't but she needed to talk to me.
She needed to talk.
And that we developed an amazing relationship. As a matter of fact, she's on the board of directors for our nonprofit.
Wow.
But she was really going through something, and she really benefited from what we had to say, or what I had to say as a wife, as a mom, And so it's just amazing his role in it all. And sometimes I go, I would say, you're not doing enough. You're just not. But he's doing more than enough.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just perfect for what God has us to do.
And he just put people, it's like, I don't be looking for people. Y'all know me.
Yeah.
I'm just walking with my head down.
I just been seeing how he serves, ministry-wise, right?
Yes.
From my understanding, we didn't go through all this stuff, but Mr. Basketball Coach, and we know what a job that is. Help raising these kids and all those things. To the people that are part of your department, that I had a chance to work with you guys, and just the impact that you have on their lives. I mean, that thread is there throughout. And that's awesome.
I just saw, I've been seeing like little examples, right? Like it's God's fully aware what you brought to his potluck, right? But he gets to determine the dinner that's served at the table. Right. You have to drop your dish off, whatever you brought to the table. You have to drop your dish off at the kitchen, go sit down at his table of purpose, and he determines the meal that gets prepared. And it's like that, right? You had this degree, you had that degree. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Come to dinner, drop your dish off at the kitchen. I'm going to bring out what's getting served on this table, though. Right? And he knows what you brought. Right? And he'll bring it out when it's time for it to be used. But we can't get so locked in to what we brought to the dinner, because he determines what hits the table. Right? And he ain't forgot what you brought. You know brought some analytical. You got a degree in nursing. He know you spent time over here, time over there. The problem is we keep sitting at the table like, I'm not going to eat till you bring out what I brought.
Right.
Many people are like, God, I'm not going to serve you till you let me use what I brought to your dinner. And he's like, wait a minute, I know what you brought.
Right.
But who here is preparing the table that we're supposed to be eating at? I haven't forgot about your degrees. I haven't forgot about your qualifications. I haven't forgot what you brought to my table, what you brought to my dinner. I know what you brought. And that's for a lot of us, right? It's almost like me trying to figure out, at this moment, which I don't even know, but I'm just saying, I done spent a lot of years developing a lot of skills. I don't know when they about to show up, right?
Exactly.
But God knows what I brought, and he'll bring it to the table when it's time to eat it. And I believe, man, y'all are such an incredible example of that. Also not allowing that to cap what God is saying.
Absolutely.
Like if you don't say something related to medical, I'm not doing it. If you're not saying something related to software development, I'm not doing it. That's kind of where you started from, serving in the parking lot, serving with the youth, It's like you didn't put a cap on it. And that's the point. And if people think that God has to work like through that. No, he don't.
Yeah.
Most of that stuff we're talking about, we didn't even ask God when we got it, right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
you just still paying on the debt from your student loan. You're like, God, please use it. Right? God, please use it. And he know what you brought, and he know you still pay.
Exactly.
But right now we need to do this.
When you think of, us working with the foster youth, and then over here we got trucking going on. It's so amazing how, and I just never thought the two would merge, like how. So one day I had to run out to the truck and do some stuff to our trucks. And so I just piled the kids up in the big vehicle I have for them. And we went out there. They were amazed. A truck? Oh my God, Miss Jackie. So in their minds, I thought you were a nurse. What? And it's like, to them, you can do anything. And so just last night, the staff were serving dinner, and I was there with them when they were serving dinner. And so I'm sitting there talking to the girls, and one of the girls said, I don't know what I want to do when I leave here. I just don't know what I want to do. The youngest, 12 years old, looked at her and said, well, if you don't have nothing to do, Miss Jackie can give you a truck to drive. You can go and drive her truck. You like to drive. You say you want to drive. Just drive her truck. It's so... It just warms my heart, and I'm like, okay, God, I get it. So again, these trucks are an avenue, could be a path for a youth. They don't want to go to college. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I like driving. I'll go drive this big truck. It just seems, because to them, I'm so little. Why do you have a truck, Miss Jackie? You're too little for a truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they just see it as she can do anything. And a case manager told me a few months ago, she said, I was talking to a kid. I said I was going to sit and have lunch with you one day and just talk to you, Miss Jackie. So what's going on? So I'm thinking, oh goodness, what are the kids complaining about, And she said, I asked her kid what they wanted to do when they grew up. And they said, I want to be just like Miss Jackie. And she said, well, why do you want to be like her? What's that all about? And she goes, nothing bothers her. She does what she feels is necessary, and she keeps moving. Yeah. I'm like, what? Yeah. That's what they see. Nothing bothers me. Let me tell you. Let me tell you what's going on over here. But the fact that this child can see through all of her trauma, everything she has going on, I just want to get to a place of peace, is what she was saying. Right. I just want to get through a place of peace. And this lady has peace.
That is so awesome.
I think part of the, when we talk about what glory is God only allowing people to see what he wants them to see. Because you look at your life and you're like, there's a bunch of stuff that bothers me. Yeah. Right. But this girl is looking at you and saying nothing bothers her. That's because that's what God wants her to see. And I think that's one way that we reflect his glory.
Right? Because it's so awesome to me, right? Man, one thing that, I look at Amber, right? I get this daily thing from Amber. And essentially, she only sees what shines the most from me. And truthfully, that's the way we should see ourselves.
That's good.
Right? She only sees what's brightest about me. Doesn't mean that there are other things here, but they are being overshadowed by the brightness. Yeah. Right? And that's the same way we have to see ourselves. Yeah. But the kids always do it to you. They're not saying that you don't have this stuff. They're just saying there's some things that's overshadowing that. Yeah, I don't know why you don't see it too. Yeah. I know you got to go home and cook dinner, and you probably don't want to do that. Or maybe you're not cooking dinner. I don't know what you got going on in your head, but right now you are killing it. And that's all they see, and that's all we honestly should see, right? And I just was thinking as you were talking that God calls us his masterpiece. He calls us his masterpiece, and the Bible tells us it's so that he could point towards us for future generations. Yeah. Like God is all the while wanting to put pillars of him in modern day so that the next generation, even the current generation, can point towards and see how good his work is. And man, sometimes, I'm going to say this is going to be an awkward way to end it. I'm going to throw it to you, right? But sometimes it's hard to be that masterpiece when you're unwilling to make the decisions that are challenging, make the decisions that are truthfully the ones that set you apart. I said, I don't always follow, I'm gonna call it culture's wisdom, but this one works pretty well. If it was easy, everybody would have did it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And but if you're gonna be set apart, that actually means there has to be some opposition to it, right? There has to be something, right, that shines forth. And that's what I hear from you guys holistically, individually, is that no matter what that opposition is, there's just this amazing wherewithal to know that there's something bigger happening here.
Yeah. That's, man, that you always know how to wrap it up perfectly. You know how to wrap it up perfectly. That's the good. That's the piece, right? That's the piece that we don't want people to miss. As you continue to listen to roll call, if you continue to hear Pastor going deeper and deeper on what it takes for us to answer the call, don't limit God. Don't try to line up this thing with your preferences, with with your vocation, with your education. God knows what you bring to the table. Excuse me. God knows what you bring to the table. And meeting the needs of his people. When you set that, you're right. The common thread, it's always going to be about God and his people. So in your leadership, you're raising up other leaders. Please keep that in mind. It's not about the label. It's not about the label that the world puts on them. God has a purpose. It's all about his people, and we're here to steward that purpose. So we have real life examples. That's the whole point of us doing this. Real life examples for you to see what walking out this word does for your leadership, what it does for you and your everyday walking around life. So, Mr. and Mrs. B, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you all the way, Pastor. Pastor Lamar.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you guys next week on the Blueprint Leadership Podcast.